The typing experience on this board is incredibly satisfying. It uses the Akko cream yellow switch and it's gasket mounted. If you're not familiar with what that means, gasket mounting results in a softer typing experience. And if you've never experienced a gasket mounted cream switch before, I can only describe it in terms of sound as feeling like you have bubble wrap under your fingers that pops when you press the keys. This keyboard sounds so good that I actively listen to it when I type, and it has this like crackle and pop sensation, and my ears love that sound. It's like I'm creating my own ASMR content with this board, and I love it. The aesthetic of this unit is really nostalgic for me. Despite Santorini being a location in Greece that I've actually never been to, when I was younger, I went to a lot of coastal towns and spent a lot of time wandering around seaside locations. The nautical and seaside theme reminds me of those times, you know, the old painted signs, the pebbled beaches, and it's a nice theme for a keyboard for an old boy like me. If you're more of a cat theme or a Tokyo theme enjoyer, they have options for that too in the same specs on their website. But if you're enjoying this video, you may also be a like and subscribe enjoyer. We'll find out about that last one. In terms of comfort, this board has quite a high profile, which is quite normal with custom keyboards, and I found going from the Fanatic Streak low profile board to the Akko board a little jarring at first, but I adjusted within an hour of use. If I encounter any comfort issues longer term, I'll just remedy that with a wrist rest, but it feels fine after that short adjustment period. This Akko board was sent to me, and if you like what you see here, bear in mind there's a 20% sale from the 8th to the 10th of February. So if you want a very capable and very affordable keyboard, you can find links to their site and a further discount code in the description below. This board is jam-packed full of features, and I'm going to rattle through a few of those for you now, and we'll take a deeper dive into other features later in the video. The RGB on this board is quite mature. It's not too garish, and I've set mine to a nice blue colour in the software. One thing I'd mention is that the light doesn't bleed through the caps, so if you type in the dark, you'll need to consider if that will work for you. The unit I have here has many different connectivity options. I can use a 3600 mAh battery for wireless connections either through the dongle that's provided in the box. I can use Bluetooth for other devices in the same room, and I can also use the rubber coiled cable which matches the colour and aesthetic of the keyboard itself. And to be able to link this board to so many different devices in that many different ways is so underrated. The switches in the board are also Hotswappable. It's compatible with 3-pin switches, and on the store it has 2 options for the switches you can choose. Mine uses the Akko cream yellow switch with 50 grams plus or minus 10 grams force to actuate it, with a total travel of 4mm. Due to it being a Hall effect switch, I can adjust the actuation point up to a minimum of 0.2mm, and it has a load of other features I'll showcase shortly. There's also onboard memory, which means you can set your profiles on the software and never look at the software again if you don't want to. And the first time I tried to type on this board with the 0.2mm actuation point, I found myself making a lot of errors in my typing, so I switched to a 2mm actuation profile using function key and 1, and I was off to the races. When I was gaming later, I switched back to my lower actuation profile once again by hitting function key and 4. There's no need to open the software to do this, and I could easily benefit from the different features of the board without compromising my typing experience while at work too. I want to dive into the per key actuation points now, and when you go to the Akko software, the first thing you should do is calibrate your board. With magnetic switches, this makes particular sense, and it will just smoothen out your experience and ensure the board works how it's intended from that point onwards. You will see you have 4 different profiles along the bottom of the software. You have 3 presets and 1 profile that you can customize. And to switch between these 4 profiles, you just hit function key and numbers 1 through 4. In my custom profile, I made my entire board 0.8mm actuation, and I then changed my movement keys to 0.2mm actuation, and I pushed the rapid trigger reset point to the bottom of the switch, which means if you release the key above that depth in press, it'll allow the switch to be pressed again without fully releasing the key like you'd have to on a mechanical switch. I've set most of the board to 0.8mm actuation point because I found that when my whole board was set to 0.2mm, the slightest of touches, even grazing past a key, would actuate the switch. So the only keys I need to be super responsive are my WASD, my left control, which I use for crouch, and my spacebar, which I use for jump. These per key actuation settings basically allow my presses for my movement to actuate faster than they would on a traditional mechanical board. And in specific games, when really precise key presses are required, you can simplify the mechanics by changing the actuation points of the keys you need to press. As an example, to super glide in Apex Legends, you need to crouch and jump within a frame of each other while mantling an object. So if you offset the actuation points of those keys, you can actually press the keys at the same time with the same finger, and you'll achieve the same effect because the actuation points are different. They'll activate slightly out of sequence as it's required to do that movement. And as I've already mentioned, this just allows you to simplify some advanced movement mechanics in specific games. The rapid trigger functionality is also great as a standalone feature too, because you can actuate your buttons faster than someone using a traditional mechanical board. And the best way to showcase this that I could think of is to show you a single fire weapons clip dump in the finals practice range with rapid trigger enabled, and then again without it enabled. You'll notice that with rapid trigger enabled, I can shoot faster than the audio can manage, so the fire of the weapon is silent. And with rapid trigger off, you can hear each shot fired because it isn't quite as fast as when you have rapid trigger enabled. You can take this same example into your movement in games, so strafing can be performed much faster with this feature enabled, and in a game like Overwatch or Apex, you can get a small advantage over your enemies if they don't also have a rapid trigger keyboard. So there are a few examples of how a Hall effect board can actually benefit your gameplay and give you an in-game advantage. There's also a dynamic keystroke option within this keyboard, and I haven't used this functionality at all because I don't think my brain is capable of making the most out of it. But if you're the kind of person that likes to use these features, you can get basically 4 different commands out of one key by using this feature correctly. As an example, you can half press a key to get one action, you can full press a key to get another one, and then similarly on the release, you can get similar interactions. And there's 2 options you can have on the down press, 2 options you can have on the release. The Akko board that I have here is a 75% layout. It has everything I need in a keyboard. It's great for giving you access to F keys, the delete button, and a nice set of arrow keys too. And I find myself missing these keys when I don't have them. And now that I have this keyboard, which feels to me like it performs just as well as the Wooting 60HE, I don't ever plan to use the Wooting again, which is why I plan to sell mine. So the Akko board also has the media knob and the hotkeys for the other usual media keys too. And it's overall an absolute banger of a board. I don't think this thing's going to leave my desk anytime soon. I'm going to use it until maybe another sponsor comes along and asks me to try out their board. For the foreseeable future though, I'm going to really enjoy this one, and thank you for sticking around for this video.